Hello Year 2, it's Miss Buckley here and I'm going to be going through your history lesson for today. So your learning question is, can I compare fire equipment in the past with the present? Your steps to success. I know the fire service is an emergency service. I know when the first fire service was created. I know what people used in 1666 to fight fires. I know what firefighters use now to fight fires. So let's get started. What emergency service do we now have to help us put out fires? Tell me, talk to the screen. Superstars, we have firefighters. So today we are extremely lucky to have a fire service as part of our emergency services. Other emergency services include the police, it includes the ambulance, and of course, the fire service. If there is a fire, we can call 999 and the fire service will come to put it out. So when you call 999, you have to actually ask for the fire service. You have to say, can I have a fire service, please? And they will put you through. They will ask you where the fire is, where you are, and they will drive straight to the fire to come and put it out. Sometimes they will also help rescue animals or people who are stuck in cars. But my question to you is, did London always have firefighters? Well, we know that over 350 years ago, there was a fire in London and it was called, tell me, what was it called? Amazing. It was called the Great Fire of London. It started in a baker's shop on Pudding Lane on Sunday the 2nd of September 1666. Now, all of the houses and shops were made of wood and they were built very close together, and that meant that the fire spread extremely fast. It spread very, very quickly. And in 1666, there wasn't a fire service. So lots of people, lots of members of the public tried to put the fire out themselves. They worked as a team and tried to help each other so their houses would stop burning. However, they only had these things. They had leather buckets and they used to use the leather buckets, as we know, to scoop water from the River Thames and to pour it on the actual fire. They could only travel by a horse and cart. So lots of people were not able to actually travel to the fire quick enough to help put it out because horse and carts do not travel very, very quickly. They had fire hooks and they had a water squirter. I want you to have a look at this picture at the bottom left hand corner of the page, and you can see that there's people who are lining up to help put out the fire, but you can also see that there are people who have the fire hook in their hand, and what they did, they used the hook part to hook on to the roof of the house, and they would work together and use their strength to pull the house down. So this is the actual hook that they used to pull to demolish the houses. And also, if you look on the ladders, you can see that there are people with the leather buckets in their hands. So they already filled the buckets with water from the River Thames and they poured the water onto the roof of the houses to try and put the fire out. Now, after the Great Fire of London, King Charles II wanted to make sure that there would never be a fire like this again. And we know that new buildings were made from bricks so they wouldn't burn so quickly, and the streets were also widened, so if a fire did happen, the houses will not catch on fire very, very quickly. So 1 year after the Great Fire of London, so that was in 1667, that was when the first fire service was set up. And this fire service will put out fires only if people needed them to. However, they didn't put out every fire. Instead, they only went to the homes of people who had paid them money, and we call that insure. So when you pay somebody or a company money to look after your house just in case a fire happens, we say that they've insured their house, okay? And that's what some people did. They insured their house, and the fire brigade at the time will know the people who have insured their house, who have paid their money for this protection, because they would have this badge. You can look on the screen on the right hand corner. They will have this badge on the outside of their house, and that would let that fire service know that those people who are living in that house had paid money to make sure that if a fire ever happened, that they could go there and they could help put the fire out. But then in 1833, 10 fire brigades in London joined together and they decided to make one large fire service, which later became the London Fire Brigade. And eventually, the government passed a law that meant every country in the UK, every country in the United Kingdom had their own fire brigade. And it was free. You didn't have to insure your house to make sure that if a fire happened, the fire service will come out. They made it free. So if a fire ever happened, anybody could call 999 and they will get the fire service to come out and put out the fire. Now, do you think that was a good idea? Pause the video here and tell somebody in your room. Now let's recap what we already know. We know that in 1666 there wasn't a fire service. We also know that members of the public had to put out the fire. And they used these things. They used leather buckets, they used a water squirter, they used a fire hook, and they travelled on horse and cart to get to the fire. We now know that the present day, which means currently now in 2021, most countries have a fire service, and that fire service is free of charge. You can call 999 and they drive straight to the fire. But remember, you have to ask for the fire service first once you call 999. Give them your address or their address where the fire is, and then they drive straight to the fire. And now, currently, the fire service have these things. They have a golden uniform, and this uniform is very special because if they went into the fire, this uniform ensures that their clothes and their skin doesn't get too hot. They also have helmets, and in this helmet they have a torch on top, and that torch helps them to look for people in thick smoke and in dark places. They have radio so they can communicate, the firefighters can communicate to one another and know where they are if they're fighting a fire. They have a thermal image camera, and this is what you will see here where the red dot is. That is the thermal image camera, and what happens is when they walk into the fire, if there's lots of thick black smoke, they will use that thermal image camera and look through the hole, and that camera detects body heat. So they will be able to get anybody who they can't physically see with their eyes. That camera will detect their body heat and they will be able to save them. They travel on fire engines, which ensures that they get to the fire very, very quickly. And instead of a leather bucket, they now use a water hose, and you can see the amount of water that comes out of this water hose is a lot. It's an enormous amount of water, so that also helps put the fire out quicker. Okay, now let's sort the fire equipment that was used in 1666 and the fire equipment that was used in the present day, that is currently used now. So, leather buckets. Was that used in 1666 or is that currently used now in the present day? Superstars, that was used in 1666. A fire hook, was that used in 1666 or is that currently used now? That was used in 1666. Golden uniform, did they wear that in 1666 or do firefighters currently wear that now in the present day? They currently wear that now. A thermal image camera, was that used in 1666 or is that currently used now? That's currently used now. A horse and cart, was that used in 1666 or is that currently used now? That was used in 1666. Helmets with a torch on top, was that used in 1666 or currently in the present day? Currently in the present day. Water squirters, 1666 or the present day? That's the present day. Radios, was that used in 1666 or is that currently used now? That's currently used now. A fire engine, was that used in 1666 or is it currently used now? That's used in the present day. And a water hose, 1666 or the present day? The present day. Well done, and that is your history lesson for today. Superstars, thank you so much for helping me order the fire equipment from the past to the present.